Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something totally fascinating. We are looking at R. Balasubramaniam's book, Power Within. Now, what this book does is examine Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership style, but through a very specific, ancient framework, Indic philosophy. So we're going to see how the author uses traditional concepts of self-awareness and duty to analyze modern political leadership. And we're sidestepping the usual day-to-day policy debates to focus entirely on the actual expression of leadership itself. It's a really interesting angle.
Here is our agenda for today. We'll start with Indic wisdom, then move through Rajadharma, Saudharnikaran, Stita Prajna, Prajna Bala, and wrap things up with the legacy of Dharma. Let's get into it.
Okay, Section 1. Indic Wisdom in Leadership, Shifting the Paradigm. Picture your typical corporate boss. In Western thought, the spotlight is heavily on authority, influence, and the outward act of just, well, being a leader. But the Indic view? According to Balasubramaniam, it completely flips the script. It points the camera inward. It's all about the exercise of leadership driven by deep self-awareness. It's about understanding your own self first before you try to mobilize anyone else. The book actually points out something super cool about the Indian word for leadership, netritva. It shares a root with the word for eye, net. So it's literally about having vision and keeping focus. It's acting kind of like a parent, someone who enables but also restrains for the greater good. Moving on to Section 2. Rajadharma, the prime servant. Let's look at our first ancient concept from the epic Mahabharata. So Rajadharma, this isn't just about ruling a kingdom, it's about the fundamental duty of a ruler to work selflessly. Balasubramaniam notes that observing Rajadharma means a leader actually has to surrender their own personal likes and dislikes to a much higher guiding force. And it demands two absolutely crucial qualities. First, shraddha. That's this deep, devotion-like faith that fuels untiring effort. And second, vairagya, which is a kind of detachment that brings true equanimity. Basically, it means you're acting entirely for the welfare of the people, zero ego involved. And here is where the author anchors this really ancient, abstract concept right into the modern world. Balasubramaniam points directly to PM Modi's well-known declaration where he calls himself the Pradhan Sevak, the prime servant, by framing the absolute highest office in the country not as this position of ultimate power, but as one of supreme servitude. The author argues that we're literally seeing those ancient principles of shraddha and vairagya being articulated at the executive level today.
Section 3 now, Saudharnikaran, Converging of Hearts.
If you want to understand how this Indic framework views communication, you've got to look way beyond just exchanging facts. The book explores Saudharnikaran, which means simplification without the loss of essence. And the absolute main focus here is sahridayata, which translates beautifully to the convergence of hearts. The author contrasts this directly with Western rhetoric. You know, in the West, communication is often about persuasion, maybe gentle coercion, winning the debate. But this ancient rhetoric, it's looking for genuine acceptance. It assumes we have a unified identity and seeks to find a universal truth together.
It works like this. The sender, the prashaka, encodes their idea with a specific emotional tone. That message then travels over a bridge, navigating all the cultural context and background noise, but the real magic happens at step 3. The receiver, the prapaka, has to decode and grasp the rasa, the true emotional essence of what's being said. It's actually a very sacred view of words. It's not a struggle between the speaker and the listener, it's a shared journey. To show this convergence of hearts playing out in practice, the book highlights this really interesting observation from National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. He notes that the Prime Minister's communication style isn't just about reading off policy, it is the actual medium used to foster unity. The book's argument is that when Modi communicates, he's actively utilizing this ancient model of Saudharnikaran to make sure the emotional essence of his message crosses that bridge to the public. He's looking for unified acceptance, not just, simple political agreement. All right, Section 4, Stitha Prajna, Maintaining Inner Calm. This takes us straight to the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Have you ever completely lost your cool under pressure? I think we all have. Well, the author suggests that the absolute best leaders cultivate an evenness of mind, this state of witness consciousness known as Stitha Prajna. It means being a totally impartial observer to your own thoughts and emotions. When a leader drops their attachment and ego, they just aren't rattled by massive external successes or crushing failures. By practicing this, often through intense yoga and meditation, a leader can harness the power of now, keeping complete clarity even when the stakes are sky high.
And the author actually maps this profound inner calm directly to PM Modi's reactions to India's lunar missions. Let's look at the real-world facts here. In 2019, when Chandrayaan-2 failed, the book notes there was no public panic or anger. Instead, Modi hugged and consoled the teary-eyed ISRO chairperson. Then, fast forward to 2023, Chandrayaan-3 is a spectacular success. But instead of just reveling in the win, the author points out how Modi immediately shifted the discourse to the continuous pursuit of science. The author presents this as proof of an equanimity that is completely unaffected by the extreme swings of winning or losing. Another really intense real-world example the author uses is the year-long farm law protests. The book argues that PM Modi's adherence to Patanjali's yoga principles, specifically the idea of calming the fluctuations of the mind, was entirely on display here. When he eventually repealed the laws in late 2021, the text characterizes his apology as humble, asserting that he maintained remarkable composure throughout a highly tense period. For Balasubramaniam, this is literally a textbook application of Sthita Prajna in modern governance. Section 5. Prajna Bala, Power of Intellect.
Think about all the different types of power a leader can wield. Out of all of them, the Mahabharata considers Prajna Bala, the power of intellect, to be the absolute foremost. This emphasizes the softer and smarter application of authority. It is the power of profound discernment. The book explains that an Indic leader uses Prajna Bala to prioritize public welfare, or lokaheta, prioritizing the absolute last-mile citizen over chasing any sort of short-term popularity.
So there are 5 kinds of power outlined here: innate abilities, economic power, good counsel, physical power, and intellect. While they're all deeply interconnected, the text uses this fantastic metaphor. It is the intellect that tames the wild elephant. Prajna Bala is the guiding force. It's what effectively directs and manages all the other, more aggressive types of power a state might hold. To really illustrate this intellectual discernment, the book takes us back to December 2019, the very early days of the pandemic. Back when the world knew barely anything about this emerging virus, the author notes that PM Modi called for an immediate cross-ministry containment strategy. Citing the Prime Minister's cabinet, the text claims he showed a really thorough, early grasp of the threat. He used his intellect to guide the physical and economic powers of the state, ensuring that the response was deeply sensitive to the welfare of everyday people right from day one.
Finally, Section 6, The Legacy of Dharma.
In his conclusion, Balasubramaniam reflects on where leaders who truly embrace these ancient principles actually end up. He argues there are 2 perennial forces acting on us. One pulls us down to the material world, the stula, which ultimately just leaves life feeling inert and sorrowful. But the other force pulls us higher, to the subtle world, the sukshma. This is a higher pursuit that provides everlasting joy and truth. The book posits that by purifying your thoughts, speech, and actions, a leader is drawn toward this subtle world. They develop higher consciousness and what is known as Shuddha Sankalpa, or pure will. And that is the ultimate legacy of Dharma.
So this explainer leaves us with a really provocative question derived from the text. We've seen how the author maps these incredible, ancient Indic concepts straight to the real-world actions of a modern prime minister. But it really makes you wonder, by tapping into this power within, could modern leaders universally cultivate this pure will? Is this ancient framework the missing key to developing truly enlightened, deeply self-aware leadership in our crazy, complex modern world? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.